What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. Joining me from Dayton, Ohio, and UD Arena, it's our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. AJ is obviously there because the Tar Heels are there preparing for their first four tournament matchup on Tuesday night against San Diego State. Fun festivities today. We had a little bit of a media day, got to talk to the players, open locker room, which I know you love. Press conference with Hubert Davis, Seth Trimble, and RJ Davis as well, and also got to watch some open practice. Go check that out on our YouTube channel. I know AJ put up a couple highlights and some reels over there, and you can obviously see all the interviews from today on our YouTube channel as well. Speaking of our YouTube channel, real quickly before we dive into it, AJ, we are trying to hit 20,000 on YouTube. We are getting close. We are also trying to hit 40,000 on Twitter, and we just hit 12,000 followers on Facebook. Big thank you to everybody who went over there. You guys know what to do. Links in the description below. Go ahead and follow us and subscribe below, and you will have a chance to win some free subscriptions to TarHeelIllustrated.com. But AJ, here's where I want to start today. We got to start with the travel delay because I know it was a little bit of a backed up day for the Tar Heels. Their media day was actually supposed to start around 6 o'clock. They didn't even land in Dayton until about 6:40 p.m. So talk to me a little bit about what happened in terms of Carolina just not being able to get out of the triangle today.
Well, let's look at it this way. Excuse me. They had to swap with San Diego State. They came all the way from San Diego.
Yeah.
And they were here ready to roll. And the Tar Heels were on the ground, still in Raleigh. When I was checking in, I heard one of the NCAA people, someone that works at where you check in, because the players actually have to go through like metal detectors and all that stuff too, just like everybody else. And someone said, man, North Carolina hasn't even left yet. I was at first thinking hotel. Oh, okay. So whatever, not a big deal, because I was walking through about 4:30. And I go downstairs and Luke DeCock, the NNO, is there. And I said, you know, Carolina? Then I asked a follow-up question. He says, no, they're in North Carolina. I go downstairs, I asked Luke DeCock, I said, you know about Carolina? And he's texting with somebody from UNC at that time. He says, yeah. He says, they're still in Raleigh and they don't know when they're going to leave. So I texted Steve Kirshner, the SID for basketball, who's been with Carolina since 88 or 89, something like that. And he said, yeah. I said, so what, can you confirm for me? You guys are still on the ground, and what's the problem? He says, we're waiting for a plane. Like they had no plane. So for the people who yesterday, and I had some fun with them, who are tired of me talking about travel issues and stuff like that, which is just part of the job. Now we can talk about Carolina's travel issues because it sucks. So, but what happened is they eventually got here. They came straight to the arena. The players get off the bus. They walk in the locker room. They're eating. They're in kind of rush mode. And I was standing right outside the locker room talking to somebody when they came in. And then when we were doing interviews with players, Seth had to put his chicken tenders aside to talk to us for a few minutes. So by the time they hit them, they were probably cold and it was our fault. So
what kind of chicken? Where were the chicken tenders from? Sorry to interrupt.
I don't know. They get meat. They get local stuff. And yeah, a lot of times they special things wherever they go. I have no idea. Look good. I know that John Rothstein had the same thing. It may have been stuff supplied by the NCAA, because I don't think Carolina would have given Rothstein any of their chicken tenders, given the deranged stuff that he's been saying on social media. I did tweet out a picture of Bubba Cunningham talking to Rothstein, by the way.
Yeah. I retweeted it. Just stir the pot a little bit.
God, just come on, man. Look, you sleep in May. Look at the numbers. Just peel it away a little bit. It's not hard. And by the way, full disclosure, I should have looked more at those numbers too. The reason I didn't, and a major sidebar here, is because I was convinced the committee wouldn't put him in because of quad one. But kudos to Baba for doing what he said he was going to try to do, was get them to look at more metrics, because he didn't think quad one was right. Mm-hmm. And he was correct. And lo and behold, if North Carolina, every team in America were to play North Carolina here in Dayton tomorrow, it'd be a quad one game for them. If every team in America played those other bubble teams here in Dayton tomorrow, they would be quad two games. That's all you need to know. If you're so married to the quad thing, Carolina's a quad one team, the others are quad two. End of story. Back on topic. They we had Seth and RJ up here. I'm at the dais right now for 20 minutes or so. And then Hubert wasn't in there up here very long. I didn't get to him in time. I was leaving the locker room after I talked to RJ in the locker room. I turned around and Hubert's right there in the locker room. And I said, did you already go? He said, yeah. I said, dang, I missed you.
Let me see how long his press conference was.
I don't think it was very, because we were all, everybody,
13.
Everybody covers Carolina. There were only a handful of us here. We were in the locker room. So
13 minutes, yes. That's.
I don't know what kind of questions he got. I haven't looked at the transcript or anything.
I haven't seen it either yet, no.
So they were in great spirits. They were, they were having a lot of fun. I just drank a Diet Dr. Pepper, a Diet Coke before I came in here. I was hoping that would make my throat feel better, and I wouldn't have to clear my throat so damn much.
Adverse effect, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but they were in great spirits, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Kids were having fun. They were relieved. And I think the theme, there were quite a few themes, but I think the prevailing one, the overwhelming one, was they're relieved. All the talk about must-win game, and obviously in the NCAA tournament, every game is a must-win game, but in order to get in, all that kind of stuff is gone. Like nobody's quad record, one record, quad two record. None of that stuff matters anymore. Their road wins don't matter. Their net ranking doesn't matter. Bubble stuff doesn't matter. Joe Lunardi is now the most insignificant man in America today because he no longer matters. Nobody gives a crap about anything he's doing right now or saying. So he's done. And this team, I think, is like, okay, we went through all this crap for the last 4.5 months, and we came through, and here we are with a golden opportunity. And there's a little bit of vindication, and they're also looking for validation. So vindication is a bridge to validation for this team, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle it. They have a very tough opponent tomorrow, and they can be their own opponent sometimes. We'll see if they are early on in that game, but if I were a Carolina fan, and I would have been like a little, like a fly following me around and heard everything I saw, saw everything I saw, I would be really optimistic that this team is in as good a headspace as it's been all year. And they're healthy too, by the way.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, a lot of teams aren't this time of year. Does it feel like just to dive deeper into that, does it feel kind of like a reset moment for Carolina a little bit, or?
I don't even know if it's reset, because a lot of times when you reset, you're trying to get back into something. I think what this is, it's kind of like they hopped across the pond. They stepped on some lily pads the last few weeks, and they're on the other side of the pond now. And that's the side of the pond they've been trying to get to all year, but they've been missing those lily pads. Or they get on one and they miss the next one. They get sopping wet and step in all that sludge, and they have to go back and try again. I think now they're on the other side. They still have some of the things that kept them from getting across. That's going to be who they are all along. The question is, can they squelch enough of that and have the good stuff come out and be who they are moving forward? That will determine how long they stick around in this thing. But one thing that they do know, RJ knew, some of the others weren't as familiar, but somebody told them, I guess on the plane or something, that 11 seeds have had success in this tournament. 6 11 seeds have gotten to a Final Four. Mm-hmm. 2 teams have gotten to Final Four starting in Dayton. Seth didn't know that. And RJ, I told RJ, he didn't remember. He remembered once I reminded him. I said, that UCLA team you guys beat in the Sweet 16 a couple years ago, they were in the Final Four a year before, and they started right here. And that was the same core group. Mm-hmm. And then he started talking about those players and how good they were. I said, and they played an epic game against Gonzaga in the Final Four. They damn near got to the national title game. So I think they feel really good. I think they feel like they belong. They're well aware of the national sentiment. And they say it's galvanizing. That's a word that Jaylen Withers used. It's galvanizing for them. I asked him, I said, you're a guy lately that's been talking a lot about keeping receipts. I said, now you got a chip. There are receipts, but you also got a chip. And he said, yeah, that they feel like they are closer, tighter, more united, and kind of rebirthed with their energy and not feeling pressure. I think they'll be loose tomorrow night, because in a way they have nothing to lose, because the world says they shouldn't be here.
Mhm.
And in a way, they have a lot to lose because if they don't play well, like Virginia last year, when people said they shouldn't be, and they got killed by Colorado State, then people mocked them and made fun of them. I don't think this club is that Virginia team. And I don't think the San Diego State is that Colorado State team. Colorado State was woefully underseeded last year. So I think the Tar Heels are in a great place going into tomorrow.
You just talked about Jaylen Withers. Did you have a chance to I know that we have a video on your YouTube channel, would you have a chance to kind of talk to him about his emotions during Selection Sunday? Because you could see him in the video that Carolina posted on Sunday, and he was obviously happy, but did he talk anything about that?
He did. And I actually talked to him about the lane violation. I had a little one-on-one with him. And it wasn't to go back over it. And I'll answer your question in a second. I want to lead up to it. He hasn't really watched it much. He has a little bit. And I asked him, I said, when you watch it, are you saying, Jaylen, pull back? Do you want to pull yourself back? He said, yeah. So, he made a mistake. It happens. But he does feel like there's a new lease, because it didn't keep him from the NCAA tournament. So all that stuff's gone. And I think he feels like a load has been relieved from his shoulders. He was carrying a lot of weight. There were a lot of people that were pretty protective the last couple of days because he was dealing with a ridiculous amount of unnecessary abuse by people. Now it's gone. He has a chance to step out here tomorrow night and hit 5 or 6 threes. They advance to Friday, and people will love him again. Just hope he doesn't do anything that gets them all like they were last year after Alabama and like they were the other night. But I also asked him about talking to us. We had requested Jaylen, and we meaning the media, after the game. We got 4 players in the hallway, didn't get Jaylen initially. Steve Kirshner gave us Jaylen, but Hubert, my understanding is Hubert wanted to be a part of that. He wanted to be there to represent him too. And he was. And I asked Jaylen, I said, when you look back on that now, what does that mean? And it's all the good stuff you can imagine that he said. You should go back and watch the video because it's very genuine and very real. And if you don't really know much about him, this is an opportunity to get to know him a little bit. And I think it's one of those things that there's a lot of people around that have influence on Carolina basketball and what happens in athletics, that want Hubert to be the guy that wins 30 games a year and goes to Final Fours because of stuff like that, because he's got exactly what they want there with that other stuff. Doesn't matter that he's not great in press conferences with us. They don't care about that. But he's great with the kids, great with the dudes. And the support he showed was something a few of the players talked about, because I asked him, because I'm going to write something. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to write, but you got to ask the questions to see what they say to kind of steer the direction of what you're going to write. So Jaylen is relieved. He smiled when I asked him if he was relieved. And he mentioned something about his response. Also, Seth did too, by the way. Seth was just kind of sitting there like that. And he said he was just soaking it in. So, yeah, you got to feel good for Jay Witt.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good story, and it's a good story to me. Charlotte guy, closing his career, having a prominent role. How awful that was the other night. But you know what? In the end, they still got in the tournament. Mm-hmm. And now they have a chance to make some new history.
Mm-hmm. They definitely do. Starts tomorrow night with San Diego State. But let's move on to the open practice portion of tonight's festivities in Dayton. What did that look like? I know there's a couple of videos on our YouTube channel that I mentioned earlier. It looked like Carolina was almost scrimmaging in one of those, obviously doing big man drills as well. How long did that open practice last, and what did you see throughout it?
The open practices in the NCAA tournament are 40 minutes, and Carolina got everything out of it they could. It was a practice. I was surprised they went after it 5-on-5 as much as they did. I shot some stuff for reels and shorts, and I shot some stuff for actual videos. Didn't want to get all of it because I wanted to watch it. I don't think I need to shoot all of it and stick it up there. That's not, but I can get some up there so people can get a feel for it and get an idea what they were doing. They were going after it, man. They were going after it. They were balling. Both ends of the court. Ian Jackson was defending as if it was a minute and a half left of a tie game in a regional final. They needed, and I think one of the reasons they went after is because the timing of everything they were going to do was thrown off. Athletes, especially at this level, when they take in food and liquid and fluids and all that kind of stuff is all predicated on when they're going to be exerting themselves the most. And then if you get stuck in a situation where you're waiting at RDU for 3.5 hours like they were, you've got to get the juices flowing. And I think Hubert wanted to give them sort of a shock to the system of actual basketball, hardcore basketball. They did it. They probably did it for about, 16 minutes. And I was impressed. I thought that there were some great moments and some bad moments. It's kind of like North Carolina. It was they're who they are, right?
How often do you see that in NCAA tournament kind of like days like this? Have you seen teams like scrimmage like that before? That doesn't seem like something that I've never been to an open practice before a tournament game. Been to tournament games, but have you seen a team go hard like that for 15 minutes?
I've seen them go 3/4 speed, sort of like Friday walkthroughs in football, when you just kind of go, you have a little bit of just a little shoulder pad kiss, that kind of thing. I've seen them do that in these settings, but I've never seen them go after it like they did. And they all did good things. Cade Tyson had the best play I've seen him make as a Tar Heel. Pump fake at the top of the key. I might even have it on film. Pump fake at the top of the key, drove into the lane, drew the defenders up, went up and scored. And I was thinking, oh, that's blue team Cade. The confident one. White team Cade's not the confident one. And those aren't my words. That's Hubert Davis's words. So I thought it was really cool. I think the fans were given a treat. In fact, fans were cheering. And, RJ hit a 3 and people were doing that kind of stuff. So they got into it a little bit. Fans were given a treat. And Hubert, I think, got a lot out of those 40 minutes because they went hard on their drills. They did a lot of different drills. There was a lot of shooting. There was a lot of getting a feel for the court. When you're playing, you can feel every court's different. Some are bouncier than others. Like Syracuse's court's really bouncy. You can almost see the bend in the court at Syracuse. At Wake Forest, it's not so much like that. So every court's a little bit different. And here, I think the court is permanent. Like Syracuse, one reason it's like that because they bring it in. But here, it's permanent. It's always there. So you got to feel for the court, and the best way to do that is to play at the way you're going to play tomorrow. So I thought Hubert got a ton out of the 40 minutes. I found myself watching more than shooting or taking photographs, which I do a lot of, so we can get stuff up there so we can bring people in that aren't here, that aren't technically here. But I was watching. I was watching as an observer that, wow, this guy's really extracting from his team. Like they all had to take great showers afterward. And that's not always the case after an open practice.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. Any dunk contests, I feel like that's
they didn't do any of that stuff. They
used it's different than what you typically see.
Hit with free throws, and they didn't do any of that stuff. They didn't even stop and sign autographs afterward. They went right into because they haven't watched full film on San Diego State because that was part of the plan. So they did a little bit of stuff. I will say this much, if I can kind of trace back to Sunday. They practiced Sunday afternoon, even though they didn't know if they were going to play in the tournament or not. After practice, they watched the show from the practice facility, from the locker room or the lounge, I guess. There's a different lounge than the one that we see in postgame. And they this morning they saw a little bit of stuff on San Diego State, but I'm asking, a couple of us are asking about San Diego State. They didn't really know much about them. So they got off the court and they went probably to dinner, and they're in San Diego State film mode. So tomorrow morning they'll get up, they'll have a walkthrough, a shoot around, but they'll also have a San Diego State walkthrough. They'll do some of that tonight, probably in the ballroom, conference room in the hotel, and then they'll do it again tomorrow. And they'll have a little bit of a shoot around, get the legs going because it's a 9 o'clock start, and then they'll watch more film. They won't take naps. They don't take naps on game days.
Oh, interesting.
Because it kind of distorts their clock.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that either.
It's a fluid and food intake, and it's pacing yourself through the course of the day. So by the time the ball tips off, it's either noon or 9:30, and you feel the same. Modern sports medicine and the dietitians that make so much money now in sports, they know what they're doing, and every guy needs something different. Grilled chicken may work different for Jacob Turner than it does for Andrew Jones. You know what I mean? You might be more of a of a roast beef kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
It just works better for your body. And they have to figure this stuff out. And then that's why when we're on the road and we come out of the locker room or we're standing outside the locker room waiting for players, they have their post-game meals stacked up. And each one of them is labeled with their names. And it's generally the same stuff, but one guy might not have mayo. Not because he doesn't like mayo, because they don't want him having mayo.
Yeah,
one guy might have avocado in there because he needs avocado, because his body lacks in certain areas, so he needs a little bit more of that. It's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you kind of dive into it and learn a little bit. But I mean, those are the fine margins I always talk about. I mean, when it comes to playing sport at the absolute highest level you can, I mean, it doesn't matter pros, NCAA, I mean, heck, even high school's got it to a certain extent now. So yeah, it's fascinating to see, but it's really interesting once you kind of get into it. But I mean, it sounds like Carolina's in a good headspace ahead of tomorrow, man. How are you feeling about that game before we head out of here? I mean, it's a tricky opponent. I mean, it's a really good defensive team, really good.
And they're also their big guy. Pardon me for not remembering his name off the top of my head right now. He's been banged up a little bit, but he went through everything San Diego State did at practice tonight. And I think they're healthy. They've got good guards. I know that some of the Carolina players did talk about their guards. And they're the number – what did I have in my piece? Are they number 1 in the nation in block shots?
They're right – I've got it.
They're number 6, I think, in defensive field goal percentage. They're number 1 in block shots. They're really high in 3-point percentage defense. They're exceptionally high in 2-point percentage defense, shots inside the arc. Carolina's going to have to work. They're going to have to work and get good shots. So they're going to have to recognize the extra pass is going to get you. They like to talk about good to great. They may have to go from okay to good tomorrow and settle with good, because you're probably not going to get a lot of great looks against San Diego State. So if you're okay, that might be good, and take good and knock enough good down. The Tar Heels are going to have to win the battle on the boards and get into transition, try to get some easy buckets to offset some of the struggles they're going to have in the half court. They're going to have to hit threes well. They shot 45% from 3 in the 9 games leading up to Duke. They were 3 for 17 against Duke. All of them were Elliott's. They need Jay Witt. They need RJ. They need some of those guys to hit threes. They're going to need to hit at least 10 threes, I think, to win this game, 9 or 10, depending on the pace, and get some transition points, win the boards, try to get some second chance points as well. They've averaged 13.8 second chance points, I think, in the last 10 games. It's a pretty good number, given the fact that in the prior 6 games before that, I think it was around 7.2. So that's 6-point difference, 6.5-point difference. That's big, especially in the NCAA tournament, where scoring goes down, the pace goes down, possessions become more of a premium. So if you could give yourself extra scoring opportunities on the offensive glass, you give yourself a much better chance of winning. And San Diego State's not a great rebounding team, so Carolina could have an edge there.
Yeah, definitely. Just real quickly to talk about those stats, I got them written down right here just to go through them. A few of them. I know Bryant did a piece yesterday we put out on our website, and David also did some stuff, a great film review on it as well. So go check those out on our website after this. But San Diego State, again, not a prolific offensive team, just 70.8 points per game. First in field goal percentage defense, 13th in defensive efficiency, 14th in scoring defense. I mean, AJ, I want to ask you this before we head out. I tweeted out earlier, but the more I dive into them, when you look at the pace of play there, like on offense, just a lack of not a prolific scoring team, like I said, but the way they defend and where they rank in a lot of those metrics. Does it remind you at all of something Carolina fans might know a little bit more about for sure? Does it remind you a little bit of a Tony Bennett UVA style of team?
I guess there are some characteristics.
That's where my mind first goes, just because that's what UVA was so known for. And you know what I mean?
Well, I think Carolina fans, if you have time, pull up San Diego State's win over Houston earlier this year. I mean, that's the mother of all rock fights. And they won. You watch Carolina, teams think that if you can drag them into the dirt, you can beat them, because they don't always respond well to that. And they're still finesse oriented. They're a transition team. They're not a lunch pail team. They've had more lunch pail element to them the last 5 weeks or so. But if this game becomes an all out, if they're like in the depths of a mine in West Virginia, and someone has to come out. That's not the kind of game North Carolina wants.
But Carolina needs to control the pace.
Yeah, I think San Diego State would be comfortable in that. So the Tar Heels, maybe if they don't control the pace, but they still got to get some runouts and convert. Mm-hmm. You got to hit some threes. It's sort of like Band-Aids, if you will, and those second chance points. If they can get second chance points, that requires beating San Diego State at its game and from the physical standpoint and being able to do things near the basket. The closer you get the basket, the more physical it gets, the more bumping there is. If Carolina can respond to that and convert offensive rebounds, if they do that, they get in transition some and they do a pretty solid job in three, they will advance. Mm-hmm. If they do two of those three, they may not advance.
Yeah.
And if you get to the line, if there are a lot of fouls called here, there could be, they got knocked down free throws.
It's a good point, man. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a trickier matchup than I think maybe some people first thought. But again, it's a team that deserves to be in the tournament when you dive into them. It's an interesting matchup, to say the least, for North Carolina.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This would be their second best win of the year. And it would be their best win since UCLA. None of the wins they've had since before Christmas would be as good as this one. It's the best. It would be the best team they've beaten. Mm-hmm. They're better than SMU. They're better than Florida State. They're better than all that. I mean, it's not even close. San Diego State would have maybe gotten a bye in the ACC tournament, double bye.
Yeah, well, that goes back to
San Diego State's better than Wake Forest.
Yeah, and that goes back to why people like us and a lot of people were surprised maybe Carolina got in the first place, and then you find out they're literally essentially the last team that got in. I mean, yeah, it would be, and that kind of illustrates the type of season North Carolina had. But again, that's the past. Like you said, the team's not thinking about that right now. Again, it's kind of a new season for the Tar Heels and the way they're approaching it. So looking forward to tomorrow night, man.
Moved past it. They're aware of all that stuff, but they've moved past it now.
Yeah. That's what you have to do, man. That's exactly what you have to do. But let's go ahead and get out of here, man. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. He's got a bunch of stories he's got to write tonight. How many stories are you going to pump out tonight, AJ?
I have no clue. Whatever gas is in these fingers, man. I got to get Bryant to help me. Bryant's going to do some stuff for me as well. So I don't know. Didn't get much sleep last night. So I'll pace myself and get it done. And the good thing is I don't have to get up the crack of dawn tomorrow. So you might see AJ posting something at like 3 a.m.
Hey, wouldn't be the first time.
I love it. I don't. Whatever's got to be done will be done, and that's what I love about doing this. I don't want to set limits because if there's only 2 stories that need to be written, I'll write 2 stories. If there's 5 that need to be written, I will do my best to write 5, or work 5 types of stories in. Either maybe stuff on the boards, which is why we want people to sign up because they can get access to things that we don't always put on the front page. So. I don't know. I've got a lot of audio to go through. Got some talked to Ian Jackson today about Ramadan and about his fasting. Mm-hmm. I got some good, really interesting stuff on that. He's come around, man. He's a much better dude, much better interview now than he was earlier this year. And some very interesting stuff about, the similarity. The last 11 seed in the NCAA tournament, they had a guy observing Ramadan. They got to the Final Four last year. That was Mo Diarra of NC State. So, hey, if you like connecting dots, have at it.
Yeah, we're running into a lot of connections now with that NC State team last year. 11 seed makes a run.
Do you think Carolina fan is happy with that? Do you think they're comfortable swimming in the same pond as the Wolfpack?
I think some Carolina fans would look at it. Wouldn't it be pretty funny if Carolina was to get to the Final Four in the same position that State was in last year? Then it just kind of, we did that the year after, so not as cool as you guys thought it was. You know what I mean? So I think Carolina fans probably look at it like that.
I don't know. I still think winning 5 in a row and then getting to the Final Four is about as one of the coolest storylines ever. But if I say that, people will get mad because it's NC State. So.
Yeah, don't need to do that, man. We need to get out of here if we get in trouble talking about NC State, man. Again, I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Josie. Appreciate you watching. Again, links in the description below to Twitter. Go over and follow us over there. Facebook, follow us over there. And hit the subscribe button, the notification bell below, too. We appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks.